Shelley Duvall turned fragility into something unforgettable. A face the camera couldn't ignore. A career that asked everything of her. Leslie Jordan proved that a big personality in a small frame could fill any room, and eventually fill the whole internet. Marilyn Monroe. The name alone still stops the conversation. 60 years on, and the image hasn't dimmed by a single watt. Matthew Perry made 236 episodes of the most-watched sitcom on Earth feel effortless. Chandler Bing became shorthand for a generation. Michael Jackson didn't just reach the top of popular music, he redrew the ceiling so nobody else could measure themselves by the same scale. Liam Payne found global fame before he was old enough to fully understand it. One Direction sold out stadiums on every continent. There is a moment in 1999 that still defines how Hollywood reads George Clooney. He had just walked away from Batman, not stumbled away, not been replaced, walked. He looked at the machinery of the blockbuster franchise, the rubber suit, the guaranteed sequels, the 9-figure paychecks lined up like dominoes, and he said, no. Not publicly, not with a press release, but in the way that actually counts in that town. Quietly, decisively, permanently. The industry took note. You don't do that unless you believe you are building something that matters more than the money. To understand why that decision landed the way it did, you have to go back to what George Clooney actually was before anyone thought of him as a serious actor. He was the guy from ER, the charming one, Dr. Doug Ross, who showed up on NBC in 1994 and immediately became the face that America put on its Thursday nights. The show was a phenomenon. At its peak, it drew nearly 48 million viewers per episode, and Clooney was its gravitational center. But television stardom in the 1990s carried a specific ceiling. The unspoken rule was that TV made you famous, and movies made you legitimate, and the passage between those two worlds was narrow and full of wreckage. Clooney had already tried and failed. Before ER, he had spent more than a decade cycling through failed pilots, forgettable supporting roles, and the kind of near misses that quietly destroy careers before they start. His father, Nick Clooney, was a television journalist and broadcaster, a man who understood the precariousness of public attention. And George had grown up watching what it looked like when recognition came and went. He had moved to Hollywood from Kentucky in 1982 with $100 and the kind of stubborn conviction that looks indistinguishable from delusion until it suddenly doesn't. He shared an apartment with a cousin. He slept on a couch for a while. He auditioned and didn't get the part, over and over, for years. When ER arrived, he was 33 years old. In Hollywood arithmetic, that is not young for a breakthrough. It was almost late. And yet what he did with that platform, the choices he made in the 5 years following, became a case study in how to use fame as leverage rather than as a destination. The pivot was Steven Soderbergh, and the film was Out of Sight, 1998. Adapted from Elmore Leonard's novel, directed with a cool, fractured confidence that was new to mainstream American cinema at the time, it asked Clooney to do something the blockbuster track would never have required: be genuinely interesting. The film wasn't a massive commercial success on release. It earned around $37 million against a $48 million budget. But it was immediately understood by critics and filmmakers as the announcement of something. Roger Ebert called it one of the best films of the year. More importantly, it began a creative partnership with Soderbergh that would reshape Clooney's entire trajectory. So when Batman and Robin underperformed critically and commercially, and the franchise was effectively shelved, Clooney didn't scramble to recover. He redirected. Three Kings, 1999, directed by David O. Russell, put him in a morally complicated Gulf War story that had no interest in making its protagonist clean. The film was volatile in production. Russell and Clooney famously clashed on set in ways that became part of Hollywood legend. But the result was undeniable. Here was a movie star willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be wrong on screen, willing to let the politics sit in the frame without resolving them neatly. The Soderbergh collaboration produced Ocean's 11 in 2001, and that film did something unusual. It made effortlessness look like an art form. With Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Andy Garcia, Julia Roberts, and a cast assembled like a jazz ensemble, the film grossed over $450 million worldwide and launched 2 sequels. But what gets discussed less is the specific quality Clooney brought to it: the ability to command the frame without dominating it, to let other actors breathe while still being unmistakably the center. That is a technical skill disguised as personality. Most stars never learn it. What Clooney learned in that period, and what separates his career arc from his contemporaries, is that cultural permanence requires editorial control. In 2000, he and his producing partner, Grant Heslov, founded Smokehouse Pictures, a production company that exists not as a vanity imprint, but as an actual creative engine. The films it has produced, Good Night and Good Luck, The Ides of March, Argo, The Men Who Stare at Goats, are films with points of view. Good Night and Good Luck, which Clooney directed and co-wrote in 2005, is probably the clearest expression of who he is as an artist. Filmed in black and white, centered on Edward R. Murrow's televised confrontation with Senator Joseph McCarthy, it was a film about journalism as a moral act, and about what it costs a public figure to say true things out loud. It earned 6 Academy Award nominations. Clooney has won twice. Supporting actor for Syriana in 2006, playing a CIA operative whose world dismantles itself around him in a performance built on physical and psychological deterioration. He gained weight, moved differently, and delivered a portrait of institutional exhaustion that had nothing to do with movie star vanity. Best Picture as a producer for Argo in 2013, the Ben Affleck-directed film about the CIA's use of a fake science fiction movie to extract 6 Americans from Tehran during the 1979 hostage crisis. Argo won 3 Oscars and earned over $230 million worldwide. It was also, notably, not a film Clooney directed or starred in. He produced it. That distinction matters. It suggests a creative ego organized around outcomes rather than credit. The political dimension of his public life is real and documented, and it cannot be separated from his work without distorting the picture. Clooney has been arrested for protesting outside the Sudanese embassy in Washington. He has testified before Congress. He co-founded the Satellite Sentinel Project, which used satellite imagery to monitor military movements along the Sudan-South Sudan border in an attempt to prevent mass atrocities. This is not celebrity advocacy in the sense of lending a name to a cause. This is operational engagement with infrastructure and stated accountability. It has drawn criticism. Some journalists and aid workers have questioned the effectiveness of remote surveillance as conflict prevention. But it also reflects a genuine investment that goes past press cycles. His marriage to Amal Alamuddin in 2014 became one of the most documented events in tabloid history. But what rarely receives the same coverage is who Amal Clooney actually is. A human rights barrister who has represented clients including WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and former Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko, and who argued before the International Court of Justice. When two people at that level of public life choose each other, the story is more interesting than the wedding photographs suggest. They have twin children, Ella and Alexander, born in 2017. In 2013, Clooney wrote an op-ed in USA Today about the Monuments Men, the true story of Allied soldiers assigned to recover art stolen by the Nazis, and then made the film. Monuments Men, 2014, was received with more critical ambivalence than he was accustomed to, a rare instance where the ambition and the execution didn't fully connect. He handled the response without deflection. The film exists. It was an imperfect attempt to make a story he believed deserved to be told. That honesty about fallibility, rare in a career built on controlled image management, is part of what has made him durable. The Descendants collaboration with Alexander Payne in 2011 remains one of his finest pieces of pure acting, a performance about a man being outpaced by grief while Hawaii sits paradoxically gorgeous around him. It earned him a Golden Globe for Best Actor and reminded audiences that the charm is a tool, not the whole instrument. There is also Tequila. Casamigos, the brand Clooney co-founded with Randy Gerber and Mike Meldman in 2013, was sold to Diageo in 2017 for up to $1 billion. It is frequently cited in business journalism as one of the most successful celebrity brand exits in history. But the origin of the company is telling. It started because Clooney and his friends wanted to make a tequila they actually wanted to drink and couldn't find. The $1 billion came after the product. That sequence, make the thing you believe in and let the market respond, has been consistent across his work in film, production, and commerce. He has directed 5 features now: Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Good Night and Good Luck, Leatherheads, The Ides of March, The Monuments Men, and Suburbicon. The critical record is mixed, which is the honest record of someone who actually directs rather than someone who waits for certainty before committing. His best work as a director, Good Night and Good Luck above all, demonstrates a formal intelligence and a willingness to trust an audience that is genuinely rare. His television work in later years, including the Hulu miniseries adaptation of Catch-22, which he also directed, shows a figure who doesn't treat different formats as a hierarchy, but as different canvases. The production was ambitious. The reviews were divided. It aired. It exists. What George Clooney has built is not a filmography or a brand. It is an argument, a sustained, documented argument that a person working inside the commercial machinery of Hollywood can retain creative and moral agency without abandoning commercial viability. That argument is still being made. The career is not filed. The next project is either in production or in development. The production company is still operational. The advocacy work is still ongoing. The public presence is still active. Some legacies are assembled retrospectively after the door closes. Others accumulate in plain sight, while the person is still in the room. The second kind is harder to see clearly because you have to hold two things at once: what has already been built and the fact that it isn't finished. George Clooney is the second kind. The work is already substantial enough to belong in any serious conversation about Hollywood's last 30 years. And the conversation isn't over yet.